I've been dying without you here. I swear I felt like the world was ending. Zola, with you back in the picture, we've got to throw the ultimate party. No skimping on anything." In the back of the Uber SUV, Kiara, Zola's closest buddy fresh off her international stint, gave Zola's hand an excited squeeze. "Absolutely. You honestly believed I'd vanish into thin air," Zola shot back, her grin spreading wide across her features. "I've reserved a suite at the St. Regis, Atlanta's top luxury haven. We're pulling an all-nighter," Kiara announced with dramatic flair. A twinge of discomfort hit Zola. "She's unchanged, as always. Do we need a place this extravagant? We could grab drinks at some dive and just talk." "Absolutely not. For your sake, mine, and our enduring bond, it demands nothing less than perfection." Kiara pushed back, utterly unyielding. "Oh, and Langston didn't show to get me?" Zola inquired offhandedly, tucking a lock of hair behind her ear. "He bolted early today. An unexpected business jaunt popped up. He mentioned he'd be gone a solid 3 days. Talk about timing. For real. Yep, he dashed out in a frenzy. Grabbed the larger SUV too, the one that's a breeze to handle. Just instructed me to watch the kids closely," Kiara explained, her lips forming a slight pout. "Guys and their priorities, right? Work trumps everything. Anyway, enough about him. Spill on my little godkids. Any wild tales?" Zola's expression lit up the moment her children came up. "You won't credit how clever Malik's gotten. 2 days ago, his father stashed some sweets, and Malik scaled a stool to snag them. Afterward, he split half with his sibling, Nia. I busted them with chocolate everywhere on their cheeks, and he stares me down innocently, aping his old man. Mom spreading the goodies around. Hilarious. Kids barely started and already scheming like a pro. Wonder where he gets it from. Guess." Zola's eyes crinkled into happy arcs amid the chuckles and anecdotes. Before long, amid the giggles and yarns, they pulled up to the St. Regis. As Kiara handled the check-in at reception, Zola lingered nearby deep into an animated tale about her girl. Nia's gone wild for art these days. Every wall in the house is her masterpiece playground. Zola was on the verge of describing how Nia had sketched her dad as a massive jack-o'-lantern when Kiara's words halted abruptly. A firm grip seized her arm. "Zola, check that out." Kiara's tone carried urgency. Zola swiveled toward the spot her pal indicated. A sleek glass lift was easing down from the higher levels. Within stood a pair, a guy and a gal. The fellow sported the gray polo she'd chosen for him herself. His silhouette was etched in her mind, unmistakable. Langston. His arm rested softly on a younger woman's midsection. He bent close, murmuring something with a tender grin Zola hadn't witnessed in forever. The lady tossed her head, bursting into laughter, and nestled deeper against him. Zola's mind reeled. Only that morning, as he exited their home, Langston had embraced her, promising how he'd pine for her on his business excursion, explaining a critical assignment required his presence, assuring a maximum 3-day absence, opting for the family SUV, and advising her to use rideshares for safety if she headed out. Those warm assurances now pierced like daggers in her heart. The surrounding bustle dimmed. Her pals' banter, the children's mischief, the thrill of reconnecting, all evaporated in a flash. Nothing but the devastating sight before her persisted. Ding. The lift hit the lobby, doors parting gradually. Langston emerged, still holding the woman and chuckling. Then his gaze lifted, locking onto Zola. Their stares collided. The atmosphere turned to ice. His grin fractured like brittle glass. His hand, draped around her waist, froze in place. He stood rooted, as if electrocuted. The woman beside him, Raina, appeared shocked upon spotting Zola and Kiara, though her bewilderment vanished swiftly. Instead of distancing herself, she pressed closer to Langston, clutching his arm fiercely. Raina raised her head and scanned Zola from head to toe. It was the bold gaze of a conqueror, sizing up the competition. That worthless jerk, Kiara muttered, shaking with fury as she stepped from Zola, poised to charge. Zola held her back. Don't. Her tone was gentle, yet laced with iron resolve. When Kiara glanced over, her friend's composure was eerily serene. No weeping, no blame, zero trace of feeling. Zola regarded the duo like total unknowns. That profound stillness chilled more than any wild frenzy. Langston's mouth quivered repeatedly. He appeared desperate to speak, to justify, but nothing emerged. He yearned to move toward Zola, yet Reyna held fast. Zola at last averted her eyes. Turning, Zola moved slowly, flashing a polished smile at the front desk attendant, who seemed unsure where to direct her gaze. "Pardon me, but I'd like to cancel our booking," she said. The staffer stared at her in shock. Zola waited a beat before continuing smoothly. "We might head to another spot instead. This hotel feels a bit grimy." With that, she didn't spare a look over her shoulder, instead gripping the arm of a rigid, seething Kiara and striding purposefully to the door. Trailing them was Langston, who'd just wriggled loose from Reyna, hurrying to catch up. "Zola, hold on a sec. Hear me out. I can clear this up. It's nothing like it seems." She tuned him out entirely, refusing to ease her stride. Her phone buzzed wildly inside her bag. No need to check. She knew exactly who it was. Emerging through the spinning entrance, sunlight flooded her vision. She fished out the device with composure. Langston's name blinked relentlessly on the display. She eyed it briefly, then swiped to silence the ringer. Everything around her hushed, and a sharp, methodical strategy crystallized in her thoughts. Step 1. Gather proof. Outside the St. Regis, Kiara flagged down a cab. "Zola, crash at my apartment. Skip the house. How will you deal with that jerk?" she fretted, clutching Zola's arms. Zola shook her head, her face remarkably composed. "Home's not on my list." "What's your plan?" "Confront him. In this mood, I won't let you go solo." "No confrontations from me?" Zola swung open the cab door and slid inside, then pivoted to face Kiara. "You check in, claim the suite, and unwind. I'll reach out soon." Her words brooked no debate. Kiara ached to protest, but her friend's steady, resolute eyes made her hold back. "Fine, stay safe. Ring me if trouble stirs. I'll rush right over." The cab rolled off, abandoning the opulent building in the distance. Zola settled into the cushion and shut her eyes. The calls had ceased, but WhatsApp notifications flooded in relentlessly, all from Langston. "Zola, where'd you go? Talk to me, please. It's all a mix-up. Don't stay upset. We can sort it out back home. Come on, face-to-face chat. That lady, zero involvement. Purely business with a client. Promise." Zola scanned the texts blankly, like observing a fumbling performer's soliloquy. She sent no response. Instead, she dialed the St. Regis line. They picked up right away. "St. Regis, Atlanta. How can I assist?" came a warm woman's tone. Zola shifted to a warm, caring lilt. "Hi there, Mrs. Zola Holloway speaking. Just confirming my husband's suite is set. He's fresh off travel, and I want him settled nicely." The clerk, caught off guard, paused. "One sec, I'll verify." Soon she came back. "You're Mr. Holloway's spouse, right?" "Yes, he's registered. Good to hear." Zola pressed on with feigned concern. "He mentioned hosting a key visitor this round. Reyna, I believe." "Ring a bell." "Spot on. Mr. Holloway arrived with Ms. Reyna." Zola's nails pressed lightly into her skin, yet her reply stayed bright. "Excellent. Glad to know. Treat business contacts right, after all." "Just wondering, what's the room type? If it's basic, I'll cover an upgrade fee. Can't seem stingy for a VIP." Impressed by her ideal spouse vibe, the clerk answered freely. "How considerate, ma'am. He booked one of our top romantic suites, full city vista. Top tier. No issues there. Romantic suite, city vista. Lovely phrasing." "Understood. Many thanks." Zola ended the call and tapped record on her device. A clean voice memo slipped into her files unnoticed. At last she gazed outside. Dusk had arrived. Urban glows streaked by the pane. After a decade in this town, it struck her as oddly foreign this evening. the ride halted at her residence, a lavish professional's pad in Buckhead. Zola settled the fare, inhaled deeply, and stepped out. Approaching the entry, it flew open. Langston appeared, features twisted in distress. A shirt button was off kilter, locks disheveled. Spotting her, he dashed forward like she'd rescue him. "Zola, thank God you're back. I was losing it." He reached for her, but she sidestepped neatly, evading contact. A small shift, yet it carved a clear gap. His arm dangled awkwardly. He flipped to a teary plea, voice cracking. "Believe me, Zola, the hotel scene, total misread. That woman, Raina, she's the kid of a major account at work." While explaining, he scanned her face for signs. The endeavor was vital enough that I had little option. She persisted in booking the finest suite available. I merely went with the flow to seal the deal. I promise, zero intimacy occurred between us. I'm blameless. He begged with complete earnestness, his gaze reddened from strain. In days gone by, Zola might have taken him at his word, yet these days his pleas merely echoed hollowly. "Finished yet?" she inquired icily. Langston halted abruptly. "Zola, once you're through, take a seat." Zola strode directly to the lounge sofa and settled in, as though claiming her professional domain. Overpowered by her command, Langston complied, perching on the facing couch like a culprit facing verdict. Silence enveloped the home. The kids were surely tucked in bed. Without glancing his way, Zola pulled out her device. Langston observed her with unease. He couldn't fathom how his spouse, typically as pliant as a stream, had morphed into this enigma, and he frantically hunted for fresh alibis. A crisp woman's tone emerged from the speaker. "Welcome to the St. Regis Atlanta. How can I assist?" Langston's eyes narrowed sharply. He recognized Zola's recording, where she mimicked his spouse's tender lilt to probe his reservation. As the staffer noted, Mr. Holloway and Miss Raina arrived jointly. Langston's complexion drained of hue. He yearned to seize the phone, yet his limbs weighed like anchors. The audio pressed on. "Details on the room, please. If it's basic, I'll upgrade it. That's generous of you, ma'am. Mr. Holloway selected our premier lover's suite overlooking the skyline." With those final phrases echoing distinctly, every last bit of rosiness fled Langston's features. He collapsed against the cushions, utterly depleted. His fabrications and justifications crumbled into absurdity against that evidence. Perspiration dotted his brow. Zola halted the playback, lifted her chin, and fixed him with a steady stare. Her expression held no fury or grief, just an ominous serenity. "You've got two paths forward," she stated. Her tone rang crisp and frosty, devoid of feeling. "Option 1. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. We convene outside the Fulton County Superior Court. A no-fault split. Assets divided evenly at 50-50. I retain sole custody of the kids. You'll enjoy adaptable visits." Langston jerked his head up, stunned. Separation. She sought to dissolve their union. "No, Zola, anything but that. I acted foolishly, no doubt. Grant me one more shot." He attempted to rise, but her command pinned him. "Stay seated." No raised volume, yet it brooked no defiance. Langston stiffened. Meeting his gaze squarely, Zola outlined the alternative. "Or else this audio plus the lobby snapshots I captured go to your folks, every colleague at your firm, and our entire relatives." She lingered on the words, each syllable pierced like frost. "I'll ensure the world views your true character, and your associates witness precisely how you conduct affairs." Langston shook violently. Confronting this icy stranger in his wife's form, a profound dread gripped him for the first time. This partner, whom he'd assumed tamed, concealed depths he never suspected. His mouth quivered as he whispered, "When did you turn this frightening?" A subtle, barely there curve touched Zola's mouth. "Right from the instant you shattered my faith." At 1 a.m., the chime at the Buckhead residence buzzed urgently. Clinging to his last hope, Langston hurried to answer. His parents stood there in nightwear, faces etched with concern. Langston, what's the crisis? Why drag us over at this late hour? His mom demanded right away. Father, mother, save me, I beg you. Langston dropped to his knees with a heavy thump. His performance merited top awards. I can't figure Zola's issue. Over a mere work chat with a contact, she returns demanding we part ways. Parents we've shared so many years, 2 little ones depend on us. How can she dismantle it all in a flash? What becomes of our household? He cast himself as the devoted provider, braving professional slights for family's sake, only to face his partner's misjudgment. His dad scowled as his mom cast a sympathetic look toward Zola descending the steps. Darling Zola, what's transpired? Dialogue mends all. How on earth did divorce enter the conversation? Before Zola responded, Langston signaled discreetly to a shadowy kid figure blinking sleepily. Malik, his 12-year-old boy, drew near. Mother, pardon father, he urged, clutching Zola's attire. Grandma insists all guys err, and if Dad owns his slip, he's solid as a parent. We can't banish him from our lives. These notions Langston had surely planted gradually. Zola's spirit fractured at her boy's unwitting pawn role. Ere she answered, another entrance creaked wide. Nia, 10 years old, dashed forth in H wearing bear-patterned pajamas, fuming. Malik, what on earth are you talking about? It's Dad who screwed up big time. He cheated on Mom. She dashed over to Zola and clung to her leg, shooting a fierce look at her sibling. If you make a mistake, you gotta deal with the consequences. Why should Mom just grit her teeth and pardon him? My teacher always says that when you screw up, you need to admit it and accept the repercussions. What do you even understand? Malik shot back, his face flushed with rage. Dad brings in the cash that keeps this roof over our heads. Without him, where would we crash? What would we have to eat? You think you'd still afford those pricey art lessons? Dad just tossed money at the place, but Mom poured her whole heart into it. Without her, do you figure we'd enjoy tasty meals and spotless outfits daily? Dad contributed funds, sure, but Mom delivered the affection. The siblings launched into a fierce dispute right in front of the entire clan. Langston's dad's features tightened. That's enough from both of you, he bellowed. Sweetheart, come on. They're only children. Don't frighten them. His wife stepped in, attempting to smooth things over. Zola, sweetheart, why don't you explain to us what went down? Zola soothed her little girl by rubbing her back gently, then gazed calmly at her relatives. She hadn't jumped into the spat or shed tears. Instead, she pulled out her cell phone and, with everyone watching, played the audio clip. Mr. Holloway booked one of our top romantic suites featuring a stunning vista. The distinct woman's voice rang out in the hushed den. Each phrase hit like a stinging blow to Langston's pale cheeks. He hadn't foreseen Zola acting so mercilessly. Once the clip finished, Zola silenced her device and, like delivering a formal briefing, outlined step by step Langston's deception regarding the business excursion, the hug in the hotel entrance, and his follow-up alibis. She presented it all without anger or accusation, using flawless reasoning. A heavy quiet enveloped the space. Her father-in-law's breathing grew ragged with upset. He stared at his son on his knees, his mouth quivering. His mother-in-law's expression mirrored both astonishment and dismay. You're lower than a beast. The father-in-law erupted at last. He snatched a mug of tea, ready to hurl it toward his boy's skull. Fernando, hold on, his spouse clutched his wrist. Don't let this loser rile you up. You'll end up with a stroke. I promise I'll end him myself. He smeared the Holloway name in the dirt. Our standing, he yelled, jabbing a finger at Langston. And you dare plead with Zola for mercy after the disgrace you pulled off. What lessons will your children pick up from a father like you? How did I end up with a boy like this? Langston slumped to the ground, at a loss for words. Every scheme he'd hatched dissolved in the face of the undeniable proof and his dad's wrath. The mother-in-law assisted her husband onto the sofa and moved toward Zola. She clasped her chilly fingers, her eyes brimming with tears. Zola, my dear, we're truly apologetic. "We dropped the ball in shaping this no-good fellow," she murmured, her tone laced with remorse. "It's all on him. We're backing you fully. Handle it as you see fit. This household stands with you." Her statement sealed the verdict in that impromptu family tribunal. Langston lay totally vanquished. The allies he'd summoned had turned into the weight bearing down on him. His dad, panting heavily, jabbed at Langston again. "From this moment until the split is official, you're confined to this home. Don't you dare set foot outside." Then he instructed his wife, "Confiscate his phone and computer. Sever all ties to the world beyond these walls. I need to witness firsthand if he pulls any more stunts." The relatives chose to spend the evening there, keeping a close watch on Langston, now cut off completely. He slunk off to the spare bedroom like a whipped pup amid his father's roars. As the sitting area settled at last, the mother-in-law embraced her granddaughter sorrowfully and drew Zola beside her on the seat. She bent close to Zola's ear and spoke softly, "Just for them. Zola, rest easy. I've got every expense for this property memorized. I track every cent that rascal made and blew in recent years. We'll sort through it all side by side come morning. Not one dime goes to that jerk and his." The following day, bright rays poured into the lounge. Tension hung thick around the morning meal spread. Langston, sporting heavy shadows beneath his eyes, had barely closed them all night. His folks, positioned at the table's end, sported stern looks. Zola stepped out from her quarters, clutching a hefty binder. She set it down with a solid thump on the surface. "Here's the full inventory of joint holdings from our wedding onward." She extracted a bundle of documents and pushed it to the table's middle. Langston grabbed the document and immediately felt lightheaded. It was exhaustive. Alarmingly so. It covered their trio of condos, the pair of vehicles, the institutions and balances for every major savings account, the titles and sums of each investment vehicle, plus the buy dates, identifiers, and costs for all shares and mutual funds. The amounts checked out precisely to the tiniest fraction. It wasn't merely an inventory. It formed a trap. Langston's palms grew damp. Some. The funds he'd siphoned off and believed were safely concealed showed up right there, fully exposed. His father glanced over the document, scanned it quickly, and let out a chilling chuckle. "Take a look. See how Zola handled this household. And what about you? What exactly have you accomplished?" His mother, upon spotting the list, felt her sympathy for her son's wife deepen even further. "Zola, how much effort did you invest in all this?" "It was simply my responsibility, Mom," Zola answered steadily. She turned to Langston. "Go through it carefully. If everything checks out, we'll use the sum from this inventory as the foundation for splitting things up. If you're on board, we can avoid a ton of headaches." Langston's thoughts whirled chaotically. He leafed through the sheets, his shirt clinging to his back from icy perspiration. The majority of the holdings were irrefutable. Evidence was plain as day, but then a memory struck him. A faint glimmer of optimism flickered to life. One property wasn't listed there. A modest apartment he rented out in Midtown, purchased discreetly 2 years back with a bonus from a job. Nobody was aware of it. Its worth had climbed substantially. If Zola remained in the dark, he could cling to that final buffer. Fighting the wild thumping in his chest, he acted like he was scrutinizing every detail, and at last gave a nod. "Yeah, I've examined it." "Nope, nothing wrong," he muttered. His throat parched. Zola observed him quietly as he wrapped up. Then she lightly tapped her fingers against the surface. The leased apartment on Peachtree Street, Unit 702, Building 368 Melm. Each detail Zola uttered seemed to stack more dominance onto Langston's features. Once she'd listed the precise location, Langston sensed his resolve crumbling, almost tumbling from his seat. He stared at Zola in horror, lips quivering, speechless. How could she possibly know? This defies belief. Zola, unaware of his dismay, pressed on in a flat tone. The duplicate of the sales contract and the deed summary are stashed in your study at home, third drawer down, concealed in the false panel within the custom binder I gifted you on your birthday. You know, the one you claimed to adore and vowed to store your vital papers in. Langston's head emptied out. That compartment, that hidden compartment, his ultimate private stash, every one of his concealed dealings had been laid bare to this woman ages ago. The issue wasn't her ignorance. It was her indulgence in letting him think he could bury it. A terror unlike any he'd known surged through him. In that instant, he realized his former schemes were mere playthings compared to Zola's perspective. Langston was utterly soaked through. He gazed at Zola like he was encountering her anew. "Should you find anything off about this roster?" Zola's voice stayed neutral. "I'm perfectly fine hashing it out in front of a judge." She halted, then landed the knockout punch. "I recall every single transfer we made over the course of our union, right down to that off-the-books cash that was tricky to log officially." The phrase black money detonated in Langston's mind like a storm. He jerked his head up, face twisted in sheer dread. The payoffs for landing contracts, the under-the-table cuts, the murky arrangements he'd skimmed. Should any of that surface in proceedings and spark an audit, the fallout would be beyond comprehension. This went way beyond splitting up and carving up possessions. It threatened total reputational collapse and potential prison time. Langston got the full picture. The no-fight separation, the smooth split. It represented Zola's ultimate mercy toward him. He had zero leverage left. "Fine, I accept," he forced through clenched teeth. He sensed his energy ebbing completely. "I consent to every term you've outlined." Zola collected the documents from the table and slipped them into the envelope. "Excellent," she replied, rising to her feet. "You've got 3 days. Sort out whatever's going on with Miss Reyna and get out of my life for good." With that, she geared up to exit the space. Langston sagged into the seat, expression vacant like an empty shell. He'd suffered a total wipeout. As Zola stepped out, her cell buzzed once. Not a ring. A message from some unidentified sender. It read briefly, "If you run into snags with the financial processes, feel free to reach out." Zola halted briefly. Who could this be? Who was keeping tabs from the background, foreseeing her upcoming hurdles? She eyed the pact bearing Langston's signature and tucked it secure. Triumph brought no elation. The real challenges lay ahead. Sure, the separation deal was inked, but dividing the estate was the true arena. She understood Langston well. He wouldn't surrender his perceived empire without a struggle. Right now, though, she pushed aside questions about the note's source. Top priority was locking down her share and her kids. Come morning, Zola headed to the bank by herself. She aimed to impose a temporary hold on the joint accounts. This step blocked Langston from shuttling or wasting communal resources amid the separation delay. She drew a ticket and took a seat. Client A37, to counter 3, if you please. Zola rose and approached the VIP desk. There, a fellow in his 30s, sporting gold-rimmed spectacles and neatly parted hair, the man awaited her arrival. His name tag identified him as David Rodriguez, client manager. "Good morning. I'm here to handle a transaction," Zola announced, passing over her driver's license along with a duplicate of the family registry. Rodriguez fiddled with his eyewear and accepted the items with a detached air. "And what sort of transaction are you looking to complete?" he inquired, his voice laced with a hint of superiority. "I'd like to initiate a hold on certain shared accounts linked to me and my husband, Langston Holloway." The manager's brows shot up. For the first time, he truly scrutinized her face, placing a freeze on accounts. He emitted a soft laugh. "Mrs. Holloway, this isn't straightforward. You'll need a substantial amount of paperwork." "I've got it all here," Zola replied, offering another binder containing a legal summary from her lawyer and evidence that the divorce proceedings were in motion. Rodriguez pored over the contents at a deliberate pace, his forehead creasing as he nodded negatively, seemingly hunting for any excuse. Roughly 10 minutes later, he slid the binder back. "Apologies, madam. We can't proceed with this. There's no court-issued family mediation certificate." Sha. He jabbed at a specific spot on one form with utter conviction. Zola's expression tightened. "Mr. Rodriguez, per banking rules, the essentials for this action are the lawyer's assessment and confirmation of the ongoing divorce. What I've submitted covers every criterion. That certificate you referenced isn't essential." Prior to her visit, she'd conferred with a specialist attorney and grasped the protocol inside out. Irritation etched across the manager's features. He hadn't anticipated such knowledge from what appeared to be a mild-mannered housewife. "Rules are one matter, practice is another," he countered, reclining in his seat and folding his arms. "This institution follows its own protocols for managing risks. If I deem it required, then it is. Without that document, we're at a standstill for now." His stance remained unyielding. Zola quickly grasped that this went beyond mere bureaucracy. Clearly, interference was at play, intentional and calculated. Langston had moved swiftly. Aware of her intentions, he'd leveraged connections to stall things. "Got it," Zola responded evenly, forgoing any debate. She collected her materials and rose to her feet. Engaging further with this individual seemed pointless. As she pivoted toward the exit, a steady masculine voice cut in nearby. "Mr. Rodriguez, you appear quite occupied." Zola spun back. A fellow had positioned himself beside her desk. Attired in relaxed yet refined attire, sans necktie, he exuded an aura of authority. He wasn't speaking to her, but to the manager. Upon spotting him, the smugness drained from Rodriguez's countenance. He sprang to his feet, beaming obsequiously. "Mr. Vance, to what do we owe this visit? Had you let us know, I'd have met you at the door myself." He inclined his head nearly to a right angle. The individual dubbed Mr. Vance brushed off the deference and eyed the document in Zola's grasp. Then he stepped nearer to the counter and murmured something audible only to them both, just one term. Zola caught it faintly, something like Atlas. That lone utterance sufficed to blanch Rodriguez's complexion to the shade of parchment. Perspiration beaded on his brow, and a shiver overtook him. "Mr. Vance, he faltered, words failing him entirely. The newcomer had already drawn himself upright, averting his gaze as though merely strolling through. Rodriguez froze in place momentarily before whirling toward Zola, his grin strained like a choked cry. "Madam, please, hold on a second." He darted from behind the counter, intercepting her route. "My deepest regrets. Forgive my error. I'm unclear on the steps. I must have mixed them up." He bobbed repeatedly in apology. "The action you're requesting doesn't call for that certificate whatsoever." "Absolutely not. I can't fathom my earlier lapse. Return, if you would. I'll take care of it at once. Right now." The shift in his demeanor was startling. He transformed into another man altogether. Zola regarded him steadily, offering no retort. She cast a look at the figure receding toward the doorway, then reclaimed her seat at the counter. "Very well, then. I appreciate the adjustment." "Oh, no, the honor's all mine," he insisted. The subsequent steps unfolded with remarkable efficiency. The very files that had posed issues moments ago sailed through without a hitch. In under 5 minutes, it wrapped up. "Madam, it's all set. Your instructions have been executed." With deference, he presented the confirmation slip. Zola scanned it, verified its accuracy, expressed her thanks, and departed. Emerging from the building, she spotted the man once more on the front stairs. He was checking his device, as if anticipating an arrival. Drawing in a steadying breath, she drew near. "Sir, I owe you my gratitude for what happened today," she stated with genuine warmth. He lifted his eyes. Noting her, a subtle grin formed. "No trouble at all. I simply caught the exchange in passing." He hesitated, then appended, "Langston Holloway doesn't exactly enjoy a stellar standing in our field." A sharp twinge struck Zola. As I suspected, you're acquainted with Langston. Regardless, your assistance means a great deal." The man grinned and pulled. He drew a business card from his pocket. The layout was straightforward, just a name and contact number against a plain white backdrop. "Elijah Vance," it read. "If you run into any more issues like this, feel free to reach out." Zola accepted the card. Who exactly was this guy? He clearly had insider knowledge about Langston, and that term, Atlas. What was its significance? "Thanks," she replied, slipping it into her pocket. Elijah gave a brief nod before striding over to a sleek black sedan idling by the sidewalk. He slid inside, and the vehicle swiftly merged into the flow of cars. Zola lingered there, lost in thought as she examined the card. Right then, her phone buzzed. It was a WhatsApp message from Kiara. "Hot scoop. I got word from a source that Langston's top rival, the firm poaching all his deals, is Vance Group Holdings. Rumor has it the CEO shares the surname Vance." Zola's eyes narrowed sharply. She glanced back at the card's inscription. Elijah Vance. So he was the head of Vance Group Holdings. But if that's the case, why offer her a hand? The celebration marking Mr. White Holloway's 70th birthday, Langston's father, was a grand affair for the clan. As a prominent family in town, they'd booked the opulent ballroom at a luxury 5-star hotel. The place was bustling, charged with excitement. In a secluded lounge prior to the festivities kicking off, Langston was on the verge of dropping to his knees, imploring Zola. "Za, I'm begging you, this is Dad's big day. All our relatives and associates will be here." He clutched her arm, his tone dripping with desperation. "Can we skip the fighting just this once? For a single evening. Protect my father's honor and keep peace between our families. We'll act like the devoted pair we used to be. Once it's done, I'll follow your lead on anything. No questions asked." Zola met his gaze with icy detachment. "Act the part. Sure. But only for your father's sake. Do it on his account." "All right," she conceded, catching him off guard. He beamed with relief, yet she wrenched away from his hold, her words flat and chilly. "This is it. No repeats, and keep your hands off me." Langston's grin faltered momentarily, but he bobbed his head eagerly. Got it, no contact. As long as you're playing along, we're good." The event got underway. Zola, clad in a sophisticated gown and flashing a flawless grin, linked arms with Langston. He held his posture rigid, behaving as though all was well. Side by side, they raised glasses to the elders and fielded warm wishes from the kin. Langston and Zola make such a striking duo. They're as smitten as newlyweds. Zola's truly a standout in the family, runs the home flawlessly and turns heads with her beauty. Those praises swelled Langston's confidence, sparking daydreams that perhaps, with Zola's buy-in, they could resurrect their union. As the gathering hit its stride, the ballroom doors swung wide. A figure in a pristine white outfit stepped through. Raina. Her face was layered with bold cosmetics, softened by a vulnerable air, and she carried a neatly packaged present. The chatter in the room died instantly. Every stare locked onto the intruder. Langston's expression drained of joy. He'd never dreamed Raina would have the nerve to appear. She brushed off the scrutiny, fixated solely on Langston at the head table. She advanced directly toward him, her intent unmistakable, to broadcast their affair in this pivotal arena, cornering him without retreat. "Darling," she drew near, her whisper laced with playful accusation. "I learned about your dad's birthday and wanted to extend my best wishes. How come you kept it from me? Worried I'd cramp your style." While talking, she reached for his free arm, claiming it like her own territory. A full-blown theatrical showdown loomed before the assembled crowd. The family's stares turned probing. Murmurs rippled through. Mr. Holloway's features hardened into a scowl. His mother, flustered and mortified, was at a loss. Langston went ashen with dread, itching to shove Raina aside but paralyzed by the risk of a spectacle. He shot Zola a desperate glance, banking on her usual bailout to shield the family's image. The onlookers braced for Zola's outburst. Maybe she'd upend the table or lash out at the other woman, but her smile held steady. She even let go of Langston's arm and rose smoothly. With poise and composure, she glided over to Raina. To the shock of all, she gently clasped Raina's hand. "Miss Raina, I presume. We're delighted you're here." Raina stiffened, thrown off her plan. "Please, come join us. Don't linger by the entrance. Grab a chair." Zola guided her warmly to the prime spot at the central table, right amid her father-in-law and Langston. Next, she signaled the host and claimed the microphone with ease. Her crisp tone filled the space. "Esteemed guests, loved ones, and companions, may I have your focus for a second?" The hall hushed. Zola beamed, sweeping her eyes across the assembly before settling on the stunned Raina. "Seizing this joyous occasion, my father-in-law's 70th milestone, I want to reveal some wonderful tidings to everyone." She halted, resting a palm on Zola's arm. "Allow me to present this lovely woman, Miss Rhea, the genuine passion my spouse Langston discovered beyond our marriage, his perfect match." A ripple of whispers spread across the grand hall. Raina's complexion drained to a ghostly pallor. She attempted to withdraw, yet Zola gripped her tightly. Langston appeared not merely drained of color, but quivering entirely, teetering on collapse. Zola paid no mind to the surrounding responses. She pivoted to face her partner squarely, his features ashen and drawn. Her tone remained subdued, yet it carried a chilling sharpness. "Now that you've uncovered real affection, perhaps it's time to stop dragging things out with me, isn't it?" Her grin widened into something even brighter. "Why not resolve it all now in this very spot before our relatives and companions? Let's finalize the divorce papers. Permit me, Zola, to offer you my heartfelt well wishes." With those words concluded, she bypassed any compact or makeup from her bag for primping. Instead, she produced two flawlessly prepared versions of the separation contract, along with a sleek fountain pen. Click. She set the documents and writing tool down on the swiveling ornament at the head table. The noise resonated more sharply than any strike. The venue fell into a hushed stupor. All attendees gaped in disbelief at the unfolding drama. Upon spotting the papers, Langston's knees buckled as though he'd been handed a fatal verdict. Rhea stood frozen in dismay. She could never have foreseen that her scheme to oust the spouse would turn into her personal spectacle of downfall. "You spineless fool." Langston's dad surged to his feet, shaking with fury. He jabbed an accusing digit toward him, veins bulging in his eyes. "If you refuse to put your name on that form right now, act as if I'm no longer your sire. The Holloway clan has no room for a disgrace like you." Raina's visage had gone utterly bloodless. It dawned on her at last that she hadn't been the final trigger. Rather, she served as the blade Zola wielded to pierce Langston where he was weakest. From the kids' section, Malik observed his mom atop the platform, radiant and commanding, his expression a tangle of emotions. The uproar at the celebration wrapped up with Langston, under the scorching stares of his parent and the assembly, inscribing the page with unsteady fingers. Zola retrieved her duplicate of the contract and departed that repulsive venue without a backward glance. Several days passed before Zola got a ring from Malik's instructor. The educator's delivery was firm. "Are you the parent of Malik Holloway? I must discuss his conduct in class." "Yes, this is she, ma'am. Recently, whispers about your household have been swirling around campus. I'm unsure if you've heard, but Malik's been boasting to peers that his dad plans to swap you out for a fresher, more attractive replacement mom, claiming his current one is just discarded trash. Such remarks are badly affecting the group. Fights have erupted and some youngsters have begun shunning him. I strongly suggest you visit the premises. This requires immediate attention." "Got it, instructor. I'll head over shortly." After ending the call, Zola shut her lids and inhaled steadily. The manipulation Langston had inflicted on their boy ran deeper than she'd suspected. At the campus, Zola located her child in the staff room. Malik held his posture rigid, scowling defiantly. Spotting her approach, he shot a sidelong glare. Zola refrained from reprimanding him there. She merely stated evenly, "Appreciate it, ma'am. Might we have a private word with him briefly?" "Certainly." Zola guided Malik to a secluded spot on the recess area. The late-day light felt gentle, and solitude enveloped them. Malik jammed his fists into his trouser slots, adopting a rebellious pose. Zola skipped any reference to the classroom issues. She posed just one query instead. "Malik, in your view, what's the key element holding a household together?" Malik blinked in confusion. The inquiry caught him off guard. He replied on reflex, "Cash." "Without funds, would we dwell in that spacious residence? Would I attend this academy? Could Naya pursue her creative workshops? Grandma insists Dad's the backbone since he earns plenty." These notions were the ones Langston and his mom had implanted in him. Zola gave a slight shake of her head. "Permit me to share a tale." Rather than debating, she spoke in a gentle murmur. Once a pair of squirrels crafted a charming nest high in the branches side by side. One ventured daily to gather the sturdiest twigs and most vibrant foliage for construction and adornment. The other scoured for the richest nuts to hoard against the cold season. They divided duties and relied on one another fully. Their dwelling shone as the coziest in the woods. Yet eventually, the nut seeker crossed paths with a more alluring squirrel. He began slyly sharing portions of his finds with this new one, deceiving his mate by claiming the season's yield was meager. At length, the nest builder uncovered the full truth. She saw that the core of their sanctuary, a place brimming with faith and comfort, had been eroded and left empty within. As the narrative concluded, Malik stayed quiet. He had grasped Zola lowered herself to meet his gaze. She locked eyes with him, her expression utterly grave, and posed her initial query. "Malik, imagine you're all grown up and wed, and someday your spouse claims it was merely an error, then hands over your joint savings to some other fellow. Would that sit well with you?" Malik's eyes narrowed sharply, his lips parted, yet no sound emerged. Zola held her stare steady. "And while you're reeling from that disloyalty, if your child sides with the cheater, cheering her on and jabbing a finger at you with words like, 'You're worthless trash. You earned being ditched,' what would that do to you?" Those inquiries struck Malik's mind like massive mallets. He'd never viewed the issue from such an angle before. He'd long assumed his dad's affair with a younger partner signified strength, and his mom's departure marked her failure to hold on to a husband. But now, stepping into the shoes of the wronged party, a wave of unfamiliar disgrace and shame washed over him. His cheeks flushed, and bewilderment clouded his gaze. He yearned to protest, but the retort stuck in his throat. Zola observed quietly. She recognized the impact of her message. Softening her tone once more, she ran her fingers tenderly through his locks. "Malik, keep this in mind. Mom didn't get cast aside. Mom opted for a path of greater self-respect. Your father violated the bonds, and he's the one dealing with the fallout now. It's your call which camp to join. I won't compel you. But ponder deeply before deciding. What sort of character, what principles do you truly value and hold in esteem?" With that, she rose and fell silent. That evening, back at the house, Malik acted changed. When Langston, as usual, attempted to sway him with a fresh gadget, he brushed it off for the first time, retreated to his bedroom, and shut himself in. Deep into the night, Zola's cell buzzed. A text from Malik arrived. Brief, just a handful of terms. "Mom, forgive me. Could I move in with you and Nia from tomorrow onward?" The dramatic episode at the celebration proved the breaking point for Langston. Actually, 2 points. The second being his boy's note. In a single night, he turned into the butt of jokes among his relatives and professional network. a pitiful figure openly shamed by his wife and compelled to ink the separation documents. His folks utterly deserted him. His dad wouldn't even share a meal at the same table. Until you've squared away that legal mess spotless, don't address me as Dad. Inside the residence, icy disdain prevailed. Outside, unyielding demands from Raina. Darling, with the split behind you, when will you present me to your family? When do we get to tour our fresh abode? I spotted a spot featuring a swimming area in Sandy Springs. It feels right for us. And the 5-carat gemstone band you vowed. Where is it? Langston's stomach churned at Raina's eager chatter over the line. He was crumbling socially amid countless woes, yet her focus remained solely on material goods. Be quiet, he bellowed eventually into the receiver. Quiet ensued, then Raina's hurt weeping. You're raising your voice at me, Langston. Recall, without my push, you'd never have ended things with Zola. I'm your soulmate these days. How dare you handle me so? Langston disconnected and hurled the device at the barrier. The display cracked apart. Soulmate. The truth dawned on him at last. This wasn't affection. It was a trap. Amid that onslaught of stress, Langston buckled. He resembled a shell of a man, drained of vitality. Over mere days, hollows formed under his eyes, stubble sprouted wildly, aging him by a decade. At last, he confronted the truth. Zola had bested him utterly. He dialed her known digits on a replacement device, hands shaking. After multiple tones, she picked up. Zola's tone remained serene, as always. Hello, Zola speaking. Langston here, he rasped, mouth parched. Words failed him beyond that. A prolonged hush stretched from her side. Zola neither prodded nor cut the call. She merely lingered. That quiet pierced Langston deeper than any scorn or criticism. Drawing in a shaky breath, he summoned every ounce of resolve to utter, I accept every term you set, every single one. Understood. Zola's reply carried no hint of feeling. Courthouse, 9 a.m. Sharp tomorrow. Then she ended the connection. Langston sank into the couch. The phone tumbled from his grasp. It was finished. The agreement wrapped up swiftly. Nia's guardianship fell to Zola, while Malik stayed with Langston, though he'd visit his mom each weekend. On the property front, Zola claimed 50% of their shared fortune, encompassing the Midtown leased apartment Langston figured he'd concealed, plus extra restitution for his concealed earnings. Langston, dulled to it all, affixed his signature sans debate. The following morning, they exited the courthouse side by side, each clutching papers affirming their dissolved union. Langston appeared worn and stooped, as though stricken by sickness. Zola stood in stark contrast. She strode tall, exuding, and even bare-faced. Her features glowed with a fresh vibrancy. She inhaled the fresh breeze deeply. Freedom washed over her. At that moment, Raina dashed up, out of breath. She was attired in an eye-catching outfit and latched onto Langston. "Darling, it's over," she exclaimed, gripping his arm tightly, blind to his strained look. "At last, we can start our life together. Let's head out now to Scout Homes and pick a ring. Our ceremony needs to be lavish, so the world knows you made the smart call by picking me." Langston's expression blended weariness and annoyance. "Could you please be quiet for a second?" Zola, witnessing the absurd exchange, gave a faint grin and looked elsewhere. Glancing around, she spotted a known dark car idling opposite the road. The glass lowered gradually, showing Elijah Vance's warm visage. It appeared he'd been there for some time. "Well done," Elijah remarked with a genuine grin. "Off to where? Let me give you a ride to kick off your fresh chapter." Zola paused briefly before beaming. She pulled open the door and slid inside. The vehicle glided forward, abandoning the bickering pair in the dust. "Here you go," Elijah offered, passing her a file from the front seat. Zola accepted it, taken aback. "Inside are documents on additional holdings Mr. Holloway attempted to shift via overseas funds just recently. Figured they could come in handy, though it looks like you won't require them now." Zola gazed at Elijah in astonishment. How had he uncovered so much? More than her own probes had revealed. Noticing her shock, Elijah grinned and laid it all out. Indeed, I'm the head of Vance Group Holdings. Due to rival business interests, we'd been digging deep into Langston Holloway's firm for months. Along the way, we uncovered bits about his personal affairs. He met her gaze with evident respect. Your resolve and cool resolve left a strong mark on me. The vehicle halted at a signal. Elijah faced her, a hint of hope in his voice. To mark the occasion, how about I treat you and young Nia to a meal? He continued. By the way, my firm is working on an exciting amusement park venture that could pique your interest. Several months on, Zola and Nia settled into a cozy home featuring a modest yard. Normalcy had gently reclaimed their days. Using the resources she'd gained, Zola invested wisely, securing a steady monthly flow of funds for ease. Mom, check out my latest butterfly sketch. Nia, now 10, called out as she hurried to Zola, who was trimming blooms in the yard. Bathed in sunlight, her child's grin shone brightly. Zola set aside the clippers and ran her fingers through Nia's locks. This was the existence she'd craved. Elijah had woven himself into their routine effortlessly, like a trusted companion. He never pushed, yet remained reliably present. On Saturdays, he'd arrive bearing stories and assist Nia with her lab projects. Clear skies meant outings to orchards for berry harvesting. If Zola lost track of meals amid financial analyses, he'd conjure up a tasty supper out of nowhere. His company brought a soothing steadiness, never intrusive or aloof. Nia cherished her Uncle Elijah, so knowledgeable and attentive. One evening at lights out, Nia murmured to Zola, Mommy, why can't Uncle Elijah become my new father? He's way nicer than Dad. He aids with assignments, hears my classroom tales, and never seems weary. Zola's pulse quickened. She embraced her girl, a soft flush rising. What makes you think so, sweetie? It's the way Uncle Elijah gazes at you, with sparkles, just like yours when you watch me. The child's pure observation stirred something deep in Zola. She saw that her emotions, chilled by a broken union, were thawing under Elijah's subtle care, and she admitted to herself that she anticipated each of his drop-ins. While Zola savored her serene routine, Langston's world spiraled into disorder. During one of their cafe meetups, Kiara filled her in on the fresh scandals. You won't credit this. That Reina woman's draining him dry. A handbag today, jewelry tomorrow. Langston's business was already faltering against Vance Group Holdings. Plus, parting with over half his fortune to you left him strapped. He can't keep up with her demands. They clash constantly, and Malik's defiance grows by the day. He bombed his report card. When Langston confronted him, Malik fired back, Fix your messes first. You can't preach to me. Langston nearly collapsed. He's only now grasping the challenges of parenting. He figured cash handouts sufficed. Zola heard it all without a word. Those folks and their troubles felt like echoes from a distant past. Another outing to the countryside with Elijah. As Nia chased her soaring toy, Zola observed from their spread-out cloth, content. Seated nearby, Elijah kept his focus on her. Yes, Elijah, Zola uttered abruptly. He locked eyes with her, intent. After a beat, he mustered his nerve and confessed precisely, I no longer wish to merely serve as your pillar. I want to be your right-hand man and your left, your lifelong companion. Will you allow me? Elijah's tone was steady and genuine. Zola's pulse skipped a beat. She stayed silent, yet the flush coloring her face and the pure joy shining in her gaze spoke volumes. In that idyllic instant, a phone's shrill ring shattered the spell. It was Langston calling. Zola paused briefly before picking up. On the line, Langston's words came out as a frantic plea, laced with sobs. Zola, I need your help. Malik's gone missing. Zola sprang to her feet. What happened? Tell me everything. We had a fight over his school marks. I let some harsh words slip, and he stormed out, yelling that he was done with it all. He left his phone behind. I've searched everywhere for hours this afternoon, but he's vanished. Maybe he's at your place. He only pays attention to you these days. You must be sheltering him." His voice blended helpless fury with unfounded accusations. Zola realized debating it was pointless. "Stay put at home," she instructed, then ended the call. Noticing her distress, Elijah rose and moved closer. He didn't pry with extra queries. Instead, he clasped her icy, stressed hand. "Everything will turn out fine," he assured her resolutely, meeting her gaze. "I'll come along. We need to tie up those loose ends from before, to really embrace what's ahead." Zola met his eyes, and somehow the worry churning inside her eased like magic. She gave a decisive nod. Wordlessly, Elijah gripped her hand while scooping Nia up with his free arm. "Nia, time to track down your brother. He needs us." The trio hastily collected their things and piled into the vehicle. The car hurtled through the darkness, though Zola's thoughts outpaced it. They arrived at Zola's neighborhood soon after. Far off, beneath a glowing lamppost, a tiny shape crouched by a bush, face tucked into folded legs. "That's Malik." Even before the engine fully cut off, Zola released her belt and dashed forward. "Malik!" At the sound of her voice, the figure jolted and raised his head. Tear tracks streaked his cheeks, eyes puffy. Spotting his mom, he broke down completely. He scrambled from the bushes and tumbled into her embrace. "Mom, I never want to return to that home." He wept, shaking. "That lady's constantly battling Dad. They hurl objects, they shout. Dad just hands me cash but ignores what I say. She calls me a bother, and over my poor scores, Dad said I was worthless, a loser, exactly like you." Each phrase pierced Zola's chest like a blade. She held him close, rubbing his back soothingly. "It's all right, Malik. That's behind us now. Mom's got you. No one will ever handle you that way again." Elijah stepped up, shrugged off his coat, and draped it around Malik's frame. "It's chilly here. Let's head indoors and chat properly." As Malik gradually settled, Elijah settled beside him, pulling out an incomplete model plane from their prior session. He avoided any talk of Langston or Raina. Instead, he conversed with the boy as an equal. "Malik, in this world, guys often encounter tough spots they hate. Fleeing doesn't fix them. You got away from that place tonight, sure. But what about the days ahead? Your dad slipped up and is dealing with the fallout. You're not the same. You hold the strength to decide. Your mom, with her smarts and grit, earned you that freedom. The freedom to pick who you'll become. Whether like him, pointing fingers and dodging duties, or like her, confronting them head-on with bravery." Those insights hit harder than any lecture. Malik glanced up at Elijah, then his mom. It was the first time the idea of choice truly sank in. "I choose to stay with Mom and Nia," he declared softly yet solidly. Legal experts handled the rest. Swamped by his issues, Langston lacked the will to contest. He agreed to the custody shift without delay. Afterward, Zola and Elijah guided Malik's routine and education. 1 year on, during a mild summer daybreak, as Zola shared a tale with Nia amid the blooms, Elijah drew near, holding a bunch of just-picked roses. Malik, maneuvering a drone, sent it soaring above them. A tiny satin case dangled from it. Elijah dropped to one knee. Zola clicked open the case to find a modest, yet sparkling band. "No more just friends for me. I aim to be your spouse, the dad to Malik and Nia, your forever ally. Will you wed me?" His words flowed serene and brimming with commitment. Zola pressed a hand to her lips, tears of bliss welling up. Nearby, Malik and Nia cheered, "Say yes, say yes." Giggling through her sobs, Zola bobbed her head eagerly. "Yes, absolutely, I will." Their union was a cozy, heartfelt affair. Clad in ivory, Zola beamed with a joy that welled from deep within. Dapper in their outfits, Malik and Nia trailed behind, tossing blooms along the path, grins outshining the daylight. Years rolled by. On the porch rocker, a silver-haired pair settled into together. Zola rested her head against Elijah's shoulder, gazing off toward the spot where their grandkids dashed around and giggled across the grass. Nia had risen to become a renowned architect, a smart and self-reliant woman just like her mom. With Elijah's mentorship, Malik had grown into a dependable and thriving entrepreneur running his own firm. And above all, he cherished his joyful family. He made regular trips to see his mother and Elijah, where they dive into deep talks on everything from daily life to running a business. He'd realized years back that the choice his mom had made all that time ago turned out to be the right one for the whole family. The evening sun cast a soft, glowing amber light over the yard. Elijah gently clasped Zola's hand, etched with the years, and murmured softly to her, "I've been so fortunate to share my days with you." Zola glanced at her partner. They locked eyes and shared a gentle grin. Enjoy the tale. And from which town are you tuning in? Drop by in the comments to connect. If the story resonated with you, feel free to show some love with a super thanks. It helps me create even more tales like this. Thanks a ton for your kind backing. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on it below. Check out the 2 fresh life stories popping up on screen. I really suggest them. My channel's packed with plenty more. Hit that subscribe button. Catch you next time for another heartfelt journey, full of warmth and appreciation.